Hello everybody, it is Pine the Pear, Coach Pine Bubbling. However you know me, you know whose video you clicked on. Now, before this video even starts, I just want to say thank you all so much for the support on that first video of me recapping week 1 as a Chiefs fan. That was my first piece of media I've ever produced that hit 1,000 views, and it hit 1,000 views in under 3 days. In under 72 hours, I hit 1,000 views for the first time ever. And that was really awesome to me. I've been doing YouTube on and off since I was like 12. I'm 19 now. And I've been making music on and off since I was like 14. And that's the first thing I've ever put out to hit 1,000 views. And that milestone really stuck with me. So thank you all. Just like the first video, this video is not scripted. Just got a few points on my phone over here that I want to go over and some notes. Obviously, it's a much better week this week because the Chiefs won. If you do not know, the Chiefs faced the Jaguars in week 2 and won by a score of 17-9. Very low scoring for the Chiefs. That's normally not our mojo, but our offense isn't the star of the show this season, and there's going to be more on that later. But I just want to point out that I kind of called it to some degree. I wouldn't necessarily call this a bounce-back game for Kadarius Toney, but it was definitely a game back on the right track. If you recall, if you've seen the video last week, I said that it might not have been this week, as in week 2, but he would have a bounce-back game. And he did to a certain degree. He got back on track. He had 5 receptions for 35 yards, and we really were targeting him a lot early in that Jacksonville game, trying to get him going with wide receiver screens and little crossing routes and really just letting him get into the open field and make plays, as he did so well at Florida and in the Super Bowl on that punt return. Sky Moore, I said he looked like a question mark, just like he did last season. He showed up too in this one. He had 3 receptions for 70 yards and a touchdown, and he also had a bounce-back game along with Kadarius Toney. Travis Kelce was back in this one. Didn't play too big of a factor. He didn't have too many catches, did have a touchdown though, and obviously him being on the field and being that threatening target that Mahomes likes to go to, obviously is going to help us find other guys open because the defense is going to be focused on him. So his return was awesome. But you know whose return was a little better? Jumping to the defensive side of the ball, Chris Jones is back with his season debut against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had 2 tackles, believe one of those was for loss, and he had 1.5 sacks. And boy, he earned his contract. He was out for week 1 due to contract disputes. We got him signed to a 1-year deal, and he's back with the team. And boy, his presence was felt. Whether he was coming off the edge or up the middle, it seemed like any play where Chris Jones was in, which he was in a little under or a little over half, I couldn't exactly remember which one, but around half, he was dominating, man. He was getting double teamed, he was getting one-on-ones, it didn't matter. He was getting a play every time he was in, it seemed like. And boy, this Chiefs defense, I don't think it's crazy to say it might be the best in the AFC. I know the Jets have a really good defense. The Broncos historically have a really good defense. Not really showing it this season, but there are some good defenses out there. In my opinion, the best defense in the league is the Cowboys. I don't think many people are going to argue with that. They have been dominant this season. But the Chiefs, they're right up there. You know, they're not necessarily on that same tier, but, you know, they're a tier down. If Cowboys are S tier, the Chiefs are right there at A tier in terms of defense. The rushing game, I noted about the rushing game in week 1. I said that Andy Reid gets into points in his career where he'll run the ball, and that's all he'll do for a few weeks, and then he will never run the ball again. And it was a tale of 2 halves for our running game for sure. In the first half, we had a combined 2 runs that weren't by Patrick Mahomes. One to Isaiah Pacheco, one to Jerick McKinnon. Now, Jerick McKinnon ended the game with that singular rush, but Pacheco ended the game with 12 rushes for, I believe it was about 70 yards. 70, excuse me. I think I about said 7 there. 70 yards around there. I don't have that listed on my little notes over here, just the 12 carries. And like I said, only one of those were in the first half. And then the first play of the second half, Pacheco comes out and we run the ball, and he busts like a 30-something, 31-ish yarder on the first play of the second half. And I'm sitting there saying, man, this is why I was talking about we need to run the ball more. Running game looked good in that second half, non-existent in the first half. I hope the trend of getting Pacheco the ball more continues, because our passing offense doesn't seem to be that same force it has been in the last few years. Our wide receiver one right now seems to be Justin Watson, who is a reliable pass catcher, but he's not going to wow you or anything. He has, I believe it's five receptions for 107 yards on the season, which 5 receptions doesn't really sound like a lot. That's how many Tony got in just this week. But those 5 receptions going for 107 yards, and he seems to be Mahomes' go-to guy so far if Travis Kelce isn't there and nobody's really open. He's just going to chuck it down and give Watson a chance, which is kind of strange. Justin Watson's our wide receiver one, really? Like, he's not a bad guy, not a bad player at all, but it was like speculated that he might not even make the team this year, with guys like Justin Ross coming in. And obviously, we all always knew he was going to make the team, but it was speculated that maybe he shouldn't, just because we can get those younger guys in some targets. And here he is, proving doubters wrong, and he's our wide receiver one now, which is kind of crazy. Jawan Taylor, in week 1, he got a lot of flack for him lining up too far back. The rule, I believe, is his helmet needs to be at the waistline of the center, or like farther up than that. And he wasn't in week 1, and he wasn't really in week 2 either. But if you look around the league, pretty much nobody is lining up correctly. But Jawan Taylor got a lot of flack because obviously on Thursday last week, it was the season opener. Everybody was watching it. Everybody saw Jawan Taylor not only lining up incorrectly, but also seemingly false starting on pretty much every play, which is the same things he did in Jacksonville. It just was highlighted with him being on the bigger stage now. I believe Jawan Taylor had about 5 penalties called on him, 4 that were accepted. And yeah, we can't have that. With the way our offense is playing right now, we can't have those penalties that are bringing us back. So Jawan Taylor, if you're watching this, which I really doubt you are, but if you are, come on, man, do us a solid. Please just watch the ball. Stop trying to count the snap. Just watch the ball. Go when the ball goes. Thank you. The O-line, in general, this year seems to kind of have taken a step forward in terms of the blocking, but a step back in terms of everything else, if you get what I mean. It just kind of looks like it's a group of guys out there, not a group of family members that it has looked like before. Because, you hear everybody say that a football team is a family, which is true. But right now, it just kind of looks like it's just a group of guys out there. There is no rhythm. There doesn't seem to be any chemistry. Even on the inside, with the 3 guys that have been here for a few years now, there don't seem to be any real chemistry there, which is really, really interesting, because you wouldn't think that an offensive line's chemistry would matter all that much. But, I mean, it kind of has showed. If that is what it is, that's just what it looks like to me, a viewer. But it's kind of been impactful. And I don't know if that's the 2 new tackles coming in Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor, or if that's the new offensive coordinator and Matt Nagy, who we're going to talk about in a second. If that's Mahomes maybe not having as much pocket presence as we initially thought he did. I'm not really sure what the problem is, but it is a problem for sure. And Matt Nagy is who I want to talk about next, because the offense definitely has not looked the same through 2 weeks as it did under Eric Bieniemy, but he was our offensive coordinator under a lot of the Alex Smith era, if not all of it, and I never really had any problems with him. The play calling was a little questionable at times, but that was when I was first getting into football, so I can't really tell you, the ins and outs of the Alex Smith era. I can tell you we won more than we lost, and that's all that I really cared about at that point in time. But Eric Bieniemy seems to be finding success in Washington and is really transforming the culture over there. It looks like, they haven't been too successful, but that offense looks rejuvenated compared to last year. And I know there's a different quarterback in there, them having Sam Howell this year, but still, that new offensive coordinator over there, Eric Bieniemy, I think he's going to be missed in Kansas City. My camera decided it was going to cut me off there. Luckily, I was done talking anyway. That's all I got. I will be at the Week 3 game in Kansas City as we go take on the Bears. I will be there. So if you're there, keep an eye out for me. Maybe I'll see you. Maybe I won't. I'm Pine the Pear, and that's my take. I'll see you next week.